Captain Jake Morrison walked the length of the Valiant's bridge with slow, measured steps. The ship wasn't much by galactic standards, an exploration corvette with decent engines, thin armor, and a crew of barely 50 souls, but it was his command. The glow of consoles lit his face, etching every line of fatigue earned over 3 months of deep space travel. Out here on the far edges of charted space, there were no supply stations, no allies, and no safety net. Just the cold silence of the void. Jake had been in the fleet long enough to know silence was rarely empty. Space hid secrets. Some of them waited for men like him to uncover. "Captain," Dr. Lisa Carter said suddenly, her voice tight with interest. "I'm picking up strange readings." Jake turned, curiosity flickering in his tired eyes. Lisa wasn't one for exaggeration. She had a calmness about her, the kind of woman who'd seen stars die and planets rip themselves apart without raising her voice. If she said something was strange, it was worth his attention. "What kind of readings?" Her fingers moved over the console with quick precision. "There's a planet in this system, small, terrestrial, within the habitable band, but the energy signatures don't make sense. The biosphere should be barren, but it's giving off life readings, strong ones, and there's something else." Jake stepped closer. Numbers and spectral graphs danced across her display. "Not natural. Not anything I've ever seen. It's not fission, not fusion, not antimatter. It's energy, but alive, like it's coming from the planet itself." Jake frowned, then looked to his second-in-command. "Ryan, check the historical records. Has this system been surveyed before?" Lieutenant Commander Ryan Blake's fingers tapped across his console. If Lisa was the fleet's scientist, Ryan was the historian. He had a sharp memory for logs and reports, always pulling up details long forgotten. After a moment, he looked up. "Yes, sir. The Zapirian Empire sent a survey team here in 2387. The Crystalline Confederation looked at it twice, 2401 and 2445. Even the Void traders dropped by in 2478. They all came, looked around, and moved on." "And their conclusions?" Jake asked, though he already guessed. Ryan's mouth tightened. "Every report says the same thing: no resources, no strategic value, marked as worthless, not worth returning to." Jake turned toward the viewport. Beyond the glass stretched a small blue planet swirled with soft white clouds. Worthless. From here it looked like a jewel, peaceful, untouched. "Set course," Jake said. "Let's see what everyone else decided wasn't worth their time." The Valiant slid into orbit above the world. As they approached, Lisa's readings grew more detailed and more impossible. "Captain, there are structures on the surface, settlements, and," she swallowed, "they're glowing." Jake leaned over her shoulder, his pulse quickening. The imaging display revealed vast crystalline cities that shimmered with soft light. They weren't built like any alien cities he'd seen before. These weren't constructed. They looked grown, organic yet geometric, towers of crystal that pulsed with inner radiance. Ryan's voice was hushed. "Those aren't ruins, that's active habitation." Jake's mouth was dry. He had seen many worlds, burned, industrialized, conquered, but never one that looked like this. "Prepare a landing team," he ordered. "I want eyes on the ground. Ryan, Lisa, you're with me. Pack the translator, standard protocols. No weapons raised unless absolutely necessary." The shuttle descended into atmosphere. Blue skis and silver clouds parted to reveal the crystalline city below, its towers catching the light of twin suns. As they drew nearer, Jake saw movement, small figures gliding gracefully between glowing buildings. They moved with a rhythm that looked less like walking and more like dancing. "Beautiful," Lisa whispered. The shuttle settled in an open plaza of polished stone. The air outside registered clean, even breathable. Yet the crew still wore light environment suits, precaution against the unknown. As the hatch opened, heat washed across them. The ground pulsed faintly under their boots as if alive, and then the beings came. They were small, barely the size of human children, but they radiated presence. Their eyes were large and shimmering, reflecting light like gems. Their skin was pale and faintly luminous, their movements flowing with a natural grace. They did not look afraid, only curious. One of them stepped forward. She was older, lines of experience touched her delicate face, but her eyes burned with wisdom. She raised a slender hand. The universal translator clicked to life. The voice that emerged was melodic, almost like song. "Welcome, tall visitors from the sky. I am Whisper of Stars. We are the Nexari." Jake dropped to one knee to meet her eye level. He'd learned long ago that towering over new species was the quickest way to start badly. I am Captain Jake Morrison. We are humans. We came from far away to learn, not to take. Whisper of Stars tilted her head, her shimmering gaze full of sorrow. Others have come before you. They looked upon us, judged us worthless, and left. Tell me, are you different? Or do you too come to take what you can? Jake opened his mouth to answer, but Lisa gasped softly, her scanner word readings spiking. Captain, these beings, they're generating quantum fields. Their very bodies manipulate matter. This is impossible. Whisper of Stars raised her hand. A bare patch of ground rippled, and from it bloomed flowers of glowing crystal. They unfolded in radiant beauty, humming faintly with music felt more in the heart than the ears. We are a peaceful people, she said. We can make things grow, we can heal wounds, we can sing to the stars, but we do not harm, we never harm. Jake swallowed. He had seen technologies that could level cities, weapons that could shatter moons. Yet here was a people whose power was greater, and used only to heal, to build, to create beauty. We are not here to take, Jake said firmly. We are here to understand and perhaps to be friends. For the first time, Whisper of Stars smiled. When she did, the flowers around her glowed brighter, their soft songs swelling in the air. That would be wonderful, Captain Morrison. To be seen at last not as tools, not as resources, but as friends. Before Jake could respond, Ryan's console chirped sharply. He looked down, his face hardening. Captain, priority message from Fleet Command. Admiral Sullivan wants to speak with you immediately. The Admiral's stern face filled the hollow display. Her gray hair was pulled back, her eyes sharp as blades. She had been Jake's mentor for years, but tonight her expression carried something rare. Fear. Jake, she said without preamble, we have a problem, a serious one. Our intelligence network confirms movement from the draconian hegemony. They've learned about the Nexari. They're sending a fleet. Jake felt his chest tighten. How large? Her answer was a hammer. 200 ships, including battleships. They'll reach your sector in a week, maybe less if they push their drives. Lisa's voice broke. But the Nexari, they don't fight, Admiral, they can't. Admiral Sullivan's face grew grimmer. That's exactly why the Draconians are coming. They see a peaceful people as prey. And your reports confirm the Nexari can manipulate quantum fields. If the hegemony enslaves them, they'll use them as living weapons. Shields, power sources, tools of war. That cannot be allowed. The Admiral's voice dropped, raw and heavy. Jake, you have 1 week. Reinforcements are on the way, but I can't promise we'll arrive in time. Until then, it's up to you. The signal cut. The silence that followed was heavier than any battle Jake had ever fought. Whisper of Stars looked up at him with eyes full of sorrow, as if she already knew what was coming. The fire-hearted ones are coming, aren't they? She asked softly. Jake's heart pounded. He had faced danger before, but never odds like this. 1 ship, a peaceful people who refused to fight, and an enemy known across the stars for merciless conquest. He looked out across the crystalline city, glowing in quiet beauty under the twin suns. And he knew the universe had just placed an impossible choice on his shoulders. The crystal city slept in silence, glowing towers pulsing faintly in the twin moon's light. Yet Captain Jake Morrison could not sleep. He stood outside the temporary human shelter, staring up at the stars. Somewhere out there, engines were burning hot, driving a draconian fleet straight toward this peaceful world. Lisa joined him quietly, tablet in hand. You heard the Admiral, 200 warships, if they enslave the Nexari? She shook her head. It's unthinkable. Jake didn't answer right away. He was listening to the faint hum of the crystalline towers, to the laughter of Nexari children still awake, their glowing lights dancing in the air. This world was alive with beauty. To imagine it burning under draconian bombardment filled him with a rage he hadn't felt in years. We can't let it happen, Jake said finally. Not again. Lisa gave him a searching look. You're thinking about Ares IV. He grimaced. Ares IV had been a frontier colony overrun by pirates while the fleet arrived too late. Thousands enslaved, hundreds dead. Jake had been there. He had lived with the failure ever since. Yes, he said. I won't watch that happen again, not if there's anything we can do. Before Lisa could reply, Ryan strode out of the shelter. He had that crisp, no-nonsense look that meant he was ready to challenge his captain. Sir, we need to be realistic. We're 1 exploration corvette. They're bringing 200 capital ships. Even if the Nexari wanted to fight, we couldn't win. Our duty is to survive long enough to warn the fleet. Jake turned slowly and leave the Nexari to die. Ryan's jaw tightened. Better them than us, sir. We can't throw away 50 human lives for a hopeless cause. Jake took a step closer. His voice was calm but steel-edged. When we signed on, we swore to defend those who couldn't defend themselves. That oath doesn't stop at Earth's borders. If we abandon them, we're no better than the draconians. Ryan said nothing, but the silence between them was thick. Before it could stretch further, a voice drifted across the plaza, melodic as a lullaby. Whisper of Stars approached, her shimmering skin glowing softly in the moonlight. You argue because you fear, she said gently. But you must know we will not fight, we cannot. Jake's frustration boiled over. Why? You have powers that could turn this planet into a fortress. You can shape matter, bend energy. Why let yourselves be slaughtered? Whisper's large eyes shimmered with sadness. Because violence destroys the soul. Our people have lived for thousands of years without war. To harm another, even in defense, would end who we are. Better to die as Nexari than live as something else. Lisa stepped forward. But what if helping others defend you isn't violence? What if you don't strike but support? You enhance fields, you amplify energy, if you extended that to our ship. Whisper tilted her head. You ask us to give strength to your weapons. No, Lisa said quickly. Not weapons, to us. Our shields, our sensors, our engines. Let us fight for you. You don't need to kill, you only need to help us survive. Whisper was silent for a long time, as though listening to voices only she could hear. Finally, she said, Perhaps we will speak of this in our gathering. Then she turned, her figure glowing faintly as she drifted back into the city. The next day, the crew of the Valiant worked feverishly. Chief Engineer Ben Rogers crawled through conduits, installing field amplifiers Lisa designed to synchronize with Nexari energy. Pilot Sarah Martinez ran drills in the shuttle bay, practicing maneuvers that might keep them alive for more than a few minutes in battle. Jake moved among them, giving orders, checking systems, but inside he wrestled with doubt. Was he leading his people to noble sacrifice or to meaningless slaughter? That evening, Whisper of Stars returned with a group of Nexari elders. Their glowing eyes were unreadable, but their presence was commanding. She spoke softly, but her words carried the weight of decision. We have discussed your request. We will not fight. We will not harm. But if you choose to stand between us and the fire-hearted ones, we will lend you our harmony. Your ship will become more than it is. We will give you strength to shield, to endure, to protect. Jake bowed his head, gratitude and relief flooding through him. Thank you, that's all we ask. But Whisper's next words chilled him. You must understand, our song is not endless. Each moment we support you drains us. If the battle lasts too long, we will fall. Jake nodded. It was still more than he had dared hope. 3 days passed. Preparations continued. The Valiant systems responded with new vigor when Nexari stood near the consoles, their energy harmonizing with the ship. Shields recharged faster. Sensors pierced deeper into space. Engines hummed with new life. For the first time, Jake felt a sliver of hope. On the 4th day, Lisa pulled him aside, her face pale. Captain, the readings, the draconian fleet. Jake's stomach dropped. How close? Lisa swallowed. Closer than we thought. They must have pushed their engines to the limit. They'll be here tomorrow. Silence crashed over the room. A week had become a day. Jake looked toward the crystalline city, glowing peacefully in the night. Nexari children played with balls of light, their laughter carrying across the plaza. They had no idea what kind of storm was about to descend on them. He clenched his fists. There would be no retreat, not this time. Sound general quarters, he ordered. We fight tomorrow. The next morning dawned with twin suns blazing across the crystal towers. The air hummed faintly, as if the planet itself was holding its breath. Jake stood on the bridge of the Valiant, uniform crisp, eyes locked on the forward display. Around him, his crew moved with grim determination. Lisa at science, Ryan at command support, Sarah prepping fighters, Ben monitoring the engines. Every one of them knew what was coming. Captain, Ryan said quietly, multiple contacts emerging from hyperspace. The display filled with crimson blips. Warships, massive, bristling with weapons, filling the sky like a swarm of locusts. Lisa's voice shook. 200 ships confirmed, including 6 battleships. The comms officer turned. Incoming transmission from the flagship. Jake nodded, put it through. The screen lit up with the face of War Commander Thra. His skin was rough, scarred from countless battles. His eyes were cold, his smile cruel. Sharp teeth, filed to points, gleamed as he spoke. Human vessel, you are in violation of draconian territory. Remove yourself from this system or be destroyed. Jake stood tall, every inch the captain. This system does not belong to you. The Nexari have lived here for millennia. They have the right to exist in peace. Thra's laugh was harsh, like metal grinding against stone. Rights, the only right is strength. The Nexari are weak. They will serve us or die. Jake's voice was steady, though his heart pounded. We cannot allow that. Thra's cruel smile widened. You cannot stop us. One small ship against my fleet. Stand aside, human, or be crushed like an insect. The transmission cut. The enemy fleet began to move. Jake drew a deep breath. All hands battle stations. Down on the surface, Whisper of Stars stood in the city's heart. Around her, thousands of Nexari gathered. Together, they closed their eyes, and then they began to sing. Not with voices, but with minds. A harmony that resonated in quantum fields, rippling across the planet, out into space. On the Valiant, systems surged with impossible strength. Shields hardened, weapons steadied, engines thrummed with power. Every crew member felt it too, minds clearer, hearts steadier, fear dissolving into resolve. Lisa gasped, eyes on her console. Captain, the Nexari, they're amplifying us, not just the ship us, our thoughts, our reactions, everything. Jake gripped the command rail, staring at the enemy fleet closing in. Then let's make this count. The first draconian salvo lit the sky like fire. The battle for the Nexari world had begun. The first draconian salvo struck like thunder. Bright lances of plasma cut through the void, converging on the Valiant. Shields flared, rippling with blue-white light. For an instant, Jake thought they would collapse under the sheer force. Then something impossible happened. The shields bent, flexed like living things, and held. On the surface below, the Nexari's quantum harmony swelled. Their crystalline city pulsed brighter as thousands of them sang in unison, not with their mouths, but with their minds. The energy field they wove poured into the Valiant, strengthening its systems beyond anything human engineers had designed. Captain, Lisa shouted over the roar of the consoles. Our shields, they're regenerating faster than physics should allow. The Nexari are reinforcing us at the quantum level. Jake's eyes narrowed. Then we use it, target their forward corvette line, fire. Lieutenant Turner's fingers danced over the controls. The Valiant's cannons spat streaks of concentrated plasma across the void. Every shot landed with pinpoint accuracy, tearing into draconian hulls. Ships that should have shrugged off the fire erupted in blossoms of flame. Ryan's eyes widened. Our targeting systems, Captain, it's like we can see their weaknesses before they move. Jake felt it too. His mind was sharper, his instincts clearer. Fear was still there, but muted, controlled. Every action felt guided by something greater, the Nexari song itself. The draconian commander's voice snarled across the comms. Impossible. How is one human ship resisting my fleet? On the enemy flagship, War Commander Thra slammed a clawed fist against his chair. His scarred face twisted in rage. Increase fire, surround them. 24 draconian destroyers surged forward, their weapons vomiting fire. Space itself seemed to ignite. The Valiant darted between blasts, moving with impossible grace for a ship its size. Sarah Martinez, piloting one of the escort fighters, cried out over comms. Captain, it's like the ship, responding to me before I touch the controls. I'm flying like I've trained for years, and I haven't. Jake gritted his teeth. Stay sharp, Phoenix Squadron, use it, make every strike count. The battle turned chaotic. Fighter craft streaked between massive capital ships. The Valiant danced in and out of formation, striking with surgical precision, but every victory came at a cost. Captain, Lisa warned, her face pale. The Nexari are burning through their strength to sustain us. The older ones are collapsing under the strain. They can't keep this up forever. Jake's stomach tightened. He imagined Whisper of Stars standing in her city, surrounded by her people, their luminous bodies trembling as they poured everything they had into saving strangers. He clenched his fist. Then we make every second they give us count. Down on the planet, Whisper of Stars swayed in the heart of the Crystal Plaza. Around her, thousands of Nexari sang their quantum song, minds entwined in perfect harmony. She felt their exhaustion, their strain, but also their hope. For the first time in centuries, someone had come not to take, but to stand. She whispered into the song, her thoughts carried like light. They fight not for conquest, not for profit, but for us. Hold, my people, hold. The song deepened, growing stronger. Its reach extended beyond the planet, brushing across the minds of beings scattered across the galaxy. Old races forgotten, gentle species ignored, they felt the call. Some stirred from silence. Some listened, curious. Others began to move. On the Valiant, alarms shrieked. Direct hit to starboard, hull breach on decks 4 and 5. Chief Engineer Rogers barked from the engine room. I've sealed the breach, but the repairs won't hold if we keep taking fire like this. Jake slammed his hand against the railing. The draconians were pressing harder, their sheer numbers overwhelming. Even with the Nexari's help, the Valiant was straining under the assault. Ryan's voice was grim. Sir, we can't win this. We're delaying the inevitable. Jake met his eyes. Sometimes delay is all we need. Ryan hesitated, then he nodded. War Commander Thra leaned forward, teeth bared. Focus all firepower on the human vessel. Crush them now. His tactical officer frowned. Sir, their movements are unpredictable. Our gunners can't track them. Thra growled. Then burn the planet. If the humans shield them, we take away what they protect. Orders rippled through the fleet. Half a dozen battleships angled their massive cannons toward the Nexari homeworld. Lisa gasped, horror flooding her face. Captain, they're targeting the surface. They'll wipe out the Nexari in one barrage. Jake's blood went cold. The shields of one small ship couldn't protect an entire planet. Not while I breathe, he said. All power to engines, intercept those battleships. The Valiant roared forward, weaving through a storm of fire. Fighters screamed past, trying desperately to cut down the draconian line. Every gun on the ship blazed. For every destroyer that fell, 3 more pushed forward. The battleships charged their cannons, crimson light building like burning suns. Whisper of Stars cried out as the Nexari felt it, death bearing down on their world. Desperation surged through the harmony. The song shifted, higher, stronger, fiercer. Lisa's console erupted with impossible readings. Captain, the Nexari are amplifying the quantum fields even more. I don't know how long they can hold it. Jake gritted his teeth. Then we give them a reason to. The Valiant hurled itself at the nearest battleship, weapons tearing through its hull. It wasn't enough. The other cannons kept charging. Sarah's voice screamed across comms. They're about to fire. The draconian battleships unleashed their fury. And then, the sky itself sang. A second harmony joined the first. Crystalline tones resonated through space as ships shimmered into existence at the edge of the system. They were unlike any vessels Jake had ever seen, structures of living crystal, glowing with inner light. Lisa's jaw dropped. Captain, new contacts, unknown configuration, they're singing with the Nexari. On the flagship, Thra snarled. What are these creatures? They have no weapons, destroy them. But when draconian fire struck the crystal ships, the blasts were absorbed, refracted, and unleashed again, not as weapons, but as dazzling waves of harmless light. The Nexari song had been joined, reinforced. Jake's heart leapt. They're not alone, they never were. The harmony grew, stronger and louder, rippling across the battlefield. The Valiant systems surged again, shields hardened, weapons steadied, engines burned like fire. For the first time, the draconian fleet faltered. Whisper of Stars lifted her head, eyes glowing like twin stars. They are coming, she whispered into the song. The others who were forgotten, the gentle ones, the ignored, they have heard us, and they are answering. Jake's console lit up with new signals. More ships arriving, not warships, not fleets of conquest, but vessels of peace, each carrying species the galaxy had long dismissed as weak. Crystal singers, gentle builders, harmony keepers. One after another they dropped from hyperspace, their presence weaving into the song. Lisa stared in awe. Captain, the Nexari aren't fighting alone anymore. This is something bigger than anything I've ever seen. Jake's pulse thundered. For the first time since the battle began, hope surged in his chest. But War Commander Thra wasn't finished. His scarred face twisted in fury. Enough games, target the newcomers. Show them what happens to those who defy the hegemony. Dozens of draconian warships wheeled, weapons locking on the peaceful vessels. The song swelled, defiant, but the enemy's firepower was overwhelming. Jake's throat went dry. If the draconians shattered the newcomers, the fragile alliance would collapse before it even began. He turned to his crew, voice low but steady. "We have one chance, all power to weapons. We hit them now or it's over." The bridge fell silent. Every officer met his eyes. No hesitation, no fear, just resolve. Jake raised his hand. "Fire everything." The Valiant dove into the storm, guns blazing, engines burning, shields roaring with Nexari's song. As the void exploded in fire and light, the future of a world, and perhaps the galaxy, hung in the balance. The void burned with fire. Draconian warships loosed their fury at the newcomers, crimson plasma streaking toward the fragile crystal vessels that had appeared at the edge of the system. Jake's hands clenched the railing as he watched. The Valiant's sensors screamed warnings. Those ships weren't designed for combat. They would shatter under a single barrage. "Captain, they can't take that kind of fire," Lisa cried. But before Jake could order anything, the impossible happened. The crystal vessels sang. Their hulls resonated like living instruments, refracting the draconian blasts into cascades of harmless light. Beams that should have burned them to ash broke apart, scattering into shimmering auroras across the stars. The battlefield glowed with colors no human eye had ever seen. Sarah Martinez, flying her fighter, gasped. "Control, did you see that? Their ships just drank the blasts and turned them into music." Jake's chest tightened. For the first time in hours, he allowed himself to breathe. They're not fighters, but they're not defenseless either. The Nexari song swelled, harmonizing with the newcomers. The Valiant systems surged again, stronger, faster, clearer. Jake felt the difference in his bones. Fear no longer clouded his mind. Every command flowed with precision, every order struck true. Ryan stared at the console, his voice low. "Sir, this isn't just one world anymore. This is something bigger." On the flagship, War Commander Thra bared his filed teeth. Rage coiled in his chest. "Cowards hiding behind illusions. They think light can stop the hegemony, target them again, shatter their song." His tactical officer, Subcommander Vex, hesitated. "Sir, the humans are weaving with them. Their ship is stronger every minute. We should reconsider." Thra's fist crashed against the console. "We do not reconsider, we conquer, double the fire." More ships appeared at the edge of the system. They came not in war formations, but in clusters, as though answering a summons. The gentle builders, their ships flowing like liquid metal, extended long arms that shimmered in the void. "Captain, look," Rogers shouted from engineering. "They're repairing us while we're still under fire." The Valiant's hull, scorched and cracked, knit itself together under glowing streams of alien alloy. Broken weapons reformed, stronger than before. Power conduits hardened, damage erased. Rogers' voice cracked with disbelief. "They're not just fixing us, they're improving us, making the ship better than it was designed to be." Jake's heart hammered. Every second, the fragile alliance was turning their survival into something more. The draconian fleet poured fire into them, but each new ally twisted it aside. Crystal singers bent blasts into light. Gentle builders repaired damage faster than it was dealt. The Nexari bound it all together with their song, amplifying every effort, harmonizing every defense. Lisa's eyes shone. "Captain, do you realize what this is? Dozens of peaceful species, long ignored, dismissed as weak, they're uniting, not to conquer but to protect. This has never happened before in galactic history." Jake knew she was right, but history didn't matter if they didn't survive the next barrage. "Keep firing," he ordered. "Every second we hold is another chance for more to arrive." And more did arrive. The Harmony Keepers emerged from hyperspace, their ships shaped like colossal instruments. They unleashed vibrations that rippled through space, affecting not matter but minds. On the Valiant's bridge, Jake felt the shift instantly. His crew straightened, fear replaced by calm focus. Every movement, every command, every reaction flowed like water. But on the draconian side, the effect was the opposite. Crews faltered, gunners hesitated, orders were questioned. A few even turned away from their stations, shaken by doubt. Lisa whispered in awe, "Their music is rewriting emotion itself." The battlefield was changing. The draconians had come expecting to crush a single corvette. Instead, they were being slowly unraveled by an enemy that didn't fight with weapons, but with harmony. Whisper of Stars stood in the crystal plaza, her voice joining the great chorus. Around her, thousands of Nexari swayed, glowing brighter with every note. Her mind touched the newcomers, crystal singers, gentle builders, harmony keepers, and she felt their shared relief. "We are not alone," she whispered into the quantum field. "We never were." The song spread farther, reaching beyond the system, a call of unity across the stars. And somewhere more species stirred, answering. On the flagship, Thras stared at his failing battle lines. He had crushed empires, broken fleets, burned worlds. Yet here he was, losing ground to a coalition of species who refused to fire a single killing shot. His claws dug into the armrest. "This is not war, this is mockery." Subcommander Vex swallowed hard. "Sir, our forces are unraveling. The humans fight like demons, and these creatures make them invincible." Thra's eyes burned with fury. "Then kill the humans, break their spine, and the song collapses." Orders rippled across the draconian fleet. Dozens of ships pivoted, weapons locking on the Valiant. Jake saw it instantly on his tactical display. A cold shiver slid down his spine. "They've marked us, all guns on the Valiant." The next wave hit like a tidal surge. The shields screamed, rippling, bending. The Nexari poured their strength into holding, but Jake saw the strain in Lisa's readings. "They can't sustain this," she cried. "The Nexari are burning out." Jake's jaw locked. "Then we take the fight to them, helm full burn, all guns forward." The Valiant roared, charging headlong into the storm. Its weapons spat fire, tearing through draconian cruisers. But every impact was answered with 10 more against their hull. The bridge shook violently, consoles sparked. Smoke filled the air. Roger's voice crackled over comms. "Captain, we're losing integrity on decks 3 through 6. If this keeps up, the ship will rip apart." Jake's vision swam, but then through the chaos he felt it, like a hand on his shoulder. Whisper of Stars, her voice carried through the harmony, speaking directly into his mind. "Hold, Captain, help is coming, you are not alone." Jake blinked, heart pounding. "What do you mean, help?" But there was no time for an answer. At the edge of the system, hyperspace flared again. Dozens more ships dropped into real space, but these were not gentle vessels. Their hulls bore scars of old battles, their engines burned with disciplined precision. The human Second Fleet, Admiral Sullivan at its head, had arrived. Lisa's voice cracked with relief. "Captain, reinforcements." Jake's chest surged with hope. The timing couldn't have been more perfect. With the peaceful species weaving their harmony and humanity's fleet bringing firepower, the balance might finally tip. But before the crew could cheer, alarms wailed. Ryan's face went pale. "Captain, new contacts." Jake looked at the display. His blood ran cold. The reinforcements weren't alone. Trailing behind them, dropping from hyperspace like predators, came another fleet, one far larger than even the Second Fleet. Ships dark and jagged, engines burning crimson. Lisa's whisper was barely audible. The draconians called for reinforcements too. The battlefield had just doubled. The void was ablaze. 2 fleets now clashed in orbit above the Nexari homeworld, human warships pouring into formation beside the battered Valiant, while a second draconian armada descended like a storm of steel. On the Valiant's bridge, Jake gripped the railing, his knuckles white. "Admiral Sullivan, we need you in the fight now." Her voice crackled over comms, steady but strained. "We're moving into battle line, Jake, but there are too many. Even with the Nexari's harmony, we'll be outnumbered 4-1. The tactical display bloomed red as more draconian warships locked weapons. The Nexari song pulsed in response, amplifying shields, sharpening minds, but it was like holding back a tidal wave with bare hands. Ryan's face was grim. "Sir, they'll break us. It's only a matter of time." Jake's eyes burned with defiance. "Then we buy every second of that time, for the Nexari, for every peaceful species that's answered this call." Down on the planet, Whisper of Stars swayed with exhaustion. Around her, thousands of Nexari knelt, their luminous bodies trembling with the strain of sustaining the quantum song. Their energy fed the humans above, but the price was steep. Already elders had collapsed, their light dimming. She felt Jake's resolve through the harmony, felt his fury, his determination to stand against the impossible, and she whispered back into the song, "He does not fight for conquest. He fights for us. The Nexari song grew louder, brighter, deeper, and its call carried farther. Across the galaxy, it rippled into forgotten corners. On Oceania, the wave dancers lifted their arms from the tides. They were beings of water and ice, artists of current and storm. For millennia, they had sculpted oceans into beauty, never once raising their gifts in anger. But now, the song reached them, and they knew. Wave dancer ships, carved from frozen seas hardened by thought, tore free from their oceans and leapt to the stars. On Harmonia, the Dreamweavers stirred. Beings who lived between thought and reality, they had long hidden their gifts. They could spin illusions so real they bent the minds of those who saw them. For centuries, they had used their powers only in art. But the Nexari's cry reached them, and they answered. Their vessels slipped from hyperspace like whispers, their hulls shifting between what was real and what was dream. On Radiara, the light shepherds awakened their forges. Their ships burned like captured suns, radiant and blinding. Their people had once believed light was only for guidance, never for war. But now they turned their brilliance into shields of hope. They too answered the song. On the valiant Lisa's console lit up, her breath caught. Captain, new arrivals, multiple signatures, unknown classes. The main screen filled with light as new fleets dropped from hyperspace. Ships of water and ice, ships that shimmered like dreams, ships blazing like miniature stars. Sarah's voice crackled over comms, awestruck. Captain, the whole galaxy's showing up. Jake felt his chest surge. It was working. The Nexari's song wasn't just saving one world, it was waking civilizations the galaxy had long forgotten. Bring them in, Jake ordered. Coordinate through the harmony, show the draconians what happens when the gentle stand together. The battlefield erupted with new possibilities. Wave dancer vessels unfurled shimmering shields of solid water, intercepting draconian missiles and freezing them in mid-flight. Whole squadrons of enemy fighters stalled, their engines choked by sudden sheets of ice forming in the vacuum. Dreamweaver ships bent reality itself. Draconian sensors screamed with false readings, phantom fleets appearing, ghost targets shifting, weapons firing at enemies that weren't there. Cruisers turned on each other in confusion, blind to what was real. Light shepherds burned like suns, flooding the void with radiant flares. Draconian targeting systems overloaded, their crews blinded by brilliance. Yet to humans and allies, the light was soft, guiding, protective. The Harmony Keeper's music wove it all together, soothing human fears, unraveling draconian discipline. Crews who had fought without hesitation now faltered, doubted, questioned orders. Jake's crew moved as though they shared one mind. Sarah's fighter darted like lightning, dodging impossible shots. Turner's gunnery found targets hidden even from sensors. Rogers shouted in disbelief as the engines surged past safe limits, yet held steady under Nexari reinforcement. And always the Valiant was at the center, fragile, battered, but unbroken. On the flagship, War Commander Thra roared. The battlefield was dissolving into chaos. His ships outnumbered the defenders, outgunned them, outmatched them in raw power, yet they were losing ground. He turned on Subcommander Vex, teeth bared. Explain this. Vex trembled. Sir, it is the song, it binds them. Every peaceful race, every so-called weakling, their abilities amplify each other. They are not fighting as individuals, they are fighting as one. Thra's eyes burned with fury. Then cut out the heart, kill the Nexari, burn their cities, silence the song. Orders shot through the draconian command net. Battleships broke formation, angling toward the planet. Jake's tactical display lit up with alarms. Lisa's face went pale. Captain, they're targeting the surface again. If they fire those cannons, the Nexari will be annihilated. Jake's stomach dropped. The song would die, everything would die. He leaned forward, his voice sharp. All ships form a wall. Block those cannons with your hulls if you have to. The Valiant surged ahead, humanity's fleet pivoting beside them. Peaceful vessels joined, their abilities weaving shields of ice, illusions of empty space, floods of light. Together, they formed a living barrier above the Nexari world. Draconian cannons charged, crimson suns building. Whisper of Stars trembled, her voice raw as she poured the last of her strength into the harmony. Hold, hold. The cannons fired. Beams of annihilation screamed toward the planet, only to be caught by walls of ice, refracted by crystal, bent by illusion, shattered by light. The galaxy's forgotten peoples held the line. The Nexari song surged higher than ever, echoing into every mind across the system. For the first time, draconian crews felt it too, a whisper that pierced their anger, a voice that asked, "What are you doing?" Some wavered, some faltered, a few even cut their engines. Jake's heart pounded as he seized the moment. Admiral Sullivan now pushed them back. Human warships roared forward, weapons blazing. The fragile alliance struck as one. Draconian ships erupted in fire, their formation cracking. For the first time, the invincible hegemony staggered. But victory was not yet won. On the flagship, Thra rose from his chair, his voice a snarl. "So they wish to sing? Then we will silence them ourselves." His claws danced across the console, activating something buried deep in the ship's core. A weapon older than most empires, forbidden even among the hegemony. Lisa's console shrieked in alarm. "Captain, massive energy spike from the flagship. I've never seen anything like it." Jake's blood turned cold. "What kind of weapon is that?" Lisa's voice shook. "If I'm reading this right, it's designed to shatter quantum fields themselves." Jake froze. If it fired, it wouldn't just kill ships. It would tear apart the harmony, silence the song, and collapse everything the Nexari and their allies had built. The screen lit crimson as the flagship's weapon began to charge. Jake whispered, "Dear God." The draconian flagship glowed like a dying star. Crimson arcs of energy spiraled around its hull, converging toward a single colossal cannon embedded deep within its core. Every sensor screamed warnings. On the Valiant, Lisa's face was pale with horror. "Captain, if that weapon fires, it won't just destroy ships. It'll tear apart the quantum fields themselves. The Nexari song, it'll be gone." Jake's blood ran cold. The song was their lifeline, the thread binding dozens of peaceful civilizations into one force. Without it, they were just scattered fleets, and the draconians would crush them in hours. "How long until it fires?" he demanded. Lisa's hands flew over her console. 2 minutes, maybe less. The bridge fell silent. 2 minutes to save a world, 2 minutes to save the song. Jake's voice hardened. "Helm, set a course straight for that flagship." Ryan spun in his chair. "Sir, are you insane? That's suicide." Jake didn't flinch. "If they fire that weapon, we lose everything. Our only chance is to stop it before it charges. We hit them with everything we've got." Ryan hesitated, then nodded grimly. "Aye, Captain." Down on the planet, Whisper of Stars felt the shift. Through the harmony, she saw the crimson glow building in the void, felt the dread ripple through her people. "The fire-hearted ones prepare a weapon to silence us," she whispered, her voice heavy with sorrow. "If they succeed, the song will end." Nexari children clung to their elders, their eyes wide with fear. Still the people sang, voices trembling but united. They poured what strength they had left into the humans above. Whisper pressed her hands to the crystal ground. "Protect them, give them strength, guide them through the storm." The Valiant burned forward, engines pushed past safety limits by the Nexari's power. Rogers shouted from engineering, sweat streaking his face. "Captain, if I push these engines any harder, they'll tear themselves apart." Jake's voice cut through the smoke. "Then hold them together with your bare hands if you have to. We're not turning back." The Valiant weaved through enemy fire, a lone dart streaking toward the heart of the draconian fleet. Allied vessels rallied in its wake. Human cruisers, crystal ships, wave dancer vessels shimmering with ice, light shepherds blazing like miniature suns. Together they carved a path toward the flagship. But the draconians closed ranks, throwing ships into their way. Plasma fire rained down. Explosions rocked the Valiant. "Shields at 30%, Turner barked. Lisa's eyes widened. "Captain, they're trying to stall us. They just need to hold us back until the weapon charges." Jake's jaw clenched, then we cut straight through them. The harmony swelled, responding to their desperation. Dreamweaver ships cast illusions of dozens of Valiants, scattering the battlefield with phantom targets. Draconian gunners fired blindly, wasting salvos on shadows. Wave dancer vessels froze enemy missiles in mid-flight, shattering them into glittering shards of ice. Crystal Singers bent cannon fire into radiant cascades, their tones weaving into the Nexari's song. And through it all, the Valiant pressed forward, shields blazing, hull trembling, engines roaring. On the flagship, War Commander Thra stood tall, his eyes locked on the charging weapon. His claws tapped against the railing in anticipation. "Let them come," he snarled. "Let them break themselves against us. When the cannon fires, their song will be dust." Sub-Commander Vex hesitated. "Sir, if we fire at full strength, the backlash could destabilize our own systems. We might." Thraw's hand lashed out, striking him across the face. "I will not hear cowardice. The galaxy will remember this day as the end of weakness." The Valiant broke through the last line of destroyers. The flagship loomed ahead, crimson light building into a burning sun. "Range 10,000 clicks," Ryan reported. His voice was steady, but his knuckles were white. "Target their weapon core," Jake ordered. "All batteries fire at will." The Valiant's guns roared. Plasma bolts streaked across the void, slamming into the flagship's armor. The hull shuddered under the barrage, but the crimson glow did not fade. Lisa shouted over the din. "Captain, it's shielded against conventional fire. We'll never break it in time." Jake's heart sank. A conventional strike wouldn't work, but maybe something else would. His eyes snapped to Lisa. "What about the harmony? Can the Nexari disrupt the field?" Lisa froze, then her eyes widened. "Maybe. If they focused the song directly on the weapon, they could destabilize the quantum resonance. But what?" Her voice dropped. "It would burn them out. Thousands of Nexari could die." The bridge went still. Jake's stomach twisted. Could he ask them to make that sacrifice? Before he could answer, a soft voice brushed against his mind, whisper of stars. "Captain Morrison, we hear you, and we choose." His throat tightened. "Whisper no, you'll kill yourselves. We have sung for thousands of years. If we must end, let it be to save, to protect, to give hope. This is who we are." Jake's eyes burned. He whispered, "Then sing louder than you ever have before." The Nexari rose as one. Their cities blazed with light. Their song surged into the void, pure and fierce, resonating with the very fabric of reality. The harmony struck the flagship's cannon like a tidal wave, its quantum field rippling, destabilizing. On the Valiant, consoles lit up with impossible readings. Lisa gasped. "It's working, the resonance is fracturing." But Jake saw the cost. Through the harmony, he felt Nexari collapsing, their light dimming, entire families fatting as they poured their last strength into the song. Whisper of Stars' voice trembled in his mind. "Hold, Captain, just a moment more." The flagship shuddered. Its weapon faltered, energy surging wildly. Warning klaxons blared across its decks. Thraw snarled, "Stabilize it, fire now." But the quantum resonance snapped. The cannon imploded, a shockwave ripping through the flagship. Crimson light cascaded across the void, tearing through its own fleet. Draconian cruisers reeled, their systems shorting under the backlash. On the Valiant, the crew clung to their stations as the shockwave washed over them. Shields screamed, but held. When the light faded, the flagship still floated, but its cannon was gone, its hull scorched and broken. The bridge erupted with cheers. For the first time, hope flared bright. But Jake didn't cheer. His chest felt hollow. Through the harmony, he felt the silence where voices had been. Thousands of Nexari gone. Whisper's voice was faint, weak. "Captain, we are fewer now, but the song still lives." Jake's throat tightened. "We'll make sure it was not in vain." On the flagship, smoke filled the command deck. Thraw staggered, his face twisted with rage. His superweapon was gone, his fleet in chaos, yet still he refused defeat. "Signal every ship. Ram the defenders if you must. We will drown them in fire and blood." Vex stared at him, trembling. "Sir, the crew, some are refusing orders. The song is reaching them. They're questioning why we fight." Thraw's eyes blazed. He drew his blade and plunged it into Vex's chest. "Then let them question as corpses." He turned back to the viewport, eyes burning. "I will tear the song from their throats with my own hands if I must." On the Valiant, Jake steadied himself. The flagship was crippled, but the draconian fleet still outnumbered them heavily. The Alliance had bought time, but victory was far from certain. Lisa looked up from her console, eyes wide. "Captain, I'm detecting something new, something massive." Jake stiffened. "Another fleet." She shook her head, her voice trembling. "No, it's coming from the flagship, energy building in their core, stronger than before." Ryan's voice cracked, "But their cannons destroyed." Lisa's eyes filled with dread. "This isn't a weapon, it's a self-destruct. If they detonate, the explosion will tear half this system apart." The bridge froze. Jake whispered, They'd rather burn everything than lose. And outside, the draconian flagship began to glow once more. The draconian flagship glowed brighter and brighter, its fractured core spiraling toward detonation. The crimson light bled across the void, growing hotter with every second. On the Valiant's bridge, silence fell as the readings poured in. Lisa's voice trembled. "Captain, if that ship detonates, the blast will rip through half this system. The Nexari homeworld, their cities, every fleet, ours and theirs, it'll all be gone." Ryan's face was pale. "Sir, we can't outrun it, no one can." The crew looked to Jake. In his chest, dread and fury warred. The Draconians would rather scorch everything than admit defeat. This wasn't war anymore, it was spite. Jake's jaw hardened. "There's still a way. We stop the detonation before it happens." Ryan blinked. "Captain, how? That core's unstable. No weapon will stop it. If we hit it, we'll only accelerate the chain reaction." Lisa's eyes widened as understanding struck. Unless we use the song." Jake turned sharply. She spoke faster, hope and fear mingling in her tone. "The Nexari can manipulate quantum fields. They destabilized the weapon once. If they focused everything they have left, they might stabilize the core long enough to shut it down." Jake's heart twisted. He remembered the cost from the last time, the silence of thousands of Nexari voices gone from the harmony. Asking them to push further might end their people entirely. And yet, what was the alternative? Whisper of Stars' voice entered his mind, faint but clear. "We hear you, Captain. We know what must be done." Jake's throat tightened. "Whisper, if you do this, you'll die." "Perhaps, but better to give our last note to save all than to watch everything burn. You humans fight for us, we will sing for you. One last time." Tears stung Jake's eyes. "Then you won't sing alone." He turned to his crew. "Prepare the Valiant. If the Nexari stabilize the core, we'll deliver the final blow to disable the flagship completely. Rogers, rig the engines for overload. If we have to ram them, we will." Rogers gave a grim smile. "Aye, Captain. Never thought I'd build a ship just to tear it apart, but hell, I'll make sure she sings on the way out." Sarah's voice came over comms, tight with emotion. "Phoenix Squadron is with you, sir. If you go, we go." Jake's chest swelled with pride. These were his people. Humanity at its best, not strongest, not smartest, but stubborn enough to stand when no one else would. On the planet below, Whisper of Stars raised her hands. All across the Crystal City, the surviving Nexari gathered. They were fewer now, so many had already fallen, but those who remained glowed brighter than ever. "Together," she whispered, "one last note, let it be a gift to the stars." The Nexari closed their eyes and sang. The void trembled. The song poured into the flagship's unstable core, weaving threads of quantum harmony around the wild, chaotic energy. The glow flickered, sputtered, dimmed. Lisa gasped, "Captain, it's working. The resonance is stabilizing." Jake didn't waste a second. "All batteries, fire on their command bridge. We take them out before they can restart the sequence." The Valiant unleashed everything it had left. Plasma cannons roared, missiles streaked, fighters dove. The Allied fleets joined, every vessel, peaceful or warborn, striking as one. The flagship shook under the onslaught. Armor cracked, fires erupted. The great beast of war groaned. On its bridge, War Commander Thras staggered, smoke filling his lungs. Yet even as systems failed, his eyes blazed with hatred. "They think they've won," he snarled. "I'll tear them apart with my bare hands." But the flagship shuddered violently. The core, though stabilized by the Nexari song, could no longer sustain the ship's broken systems. The vessel began to collapse in on itself. Jake's voice thundered across comms. "All ships fall back, it's going down." The flagship exploded, not in a crimson storm of annihilation, but in a muted collapse, its unstable energy folded inward by the Nexari's harmony. The shockwave rippled harmlessly outward, dispersing into the void like fatting thunder. When the light faded, silence reigned. Then cheers erupted across the Allied channels. Human voices, Nexari whispers, crystal tones, Dreamweaver echoes, light shepherd hymns, a chorus of victory that filled the stars. Jake sagged against the railing, exhaustion flooding his body. They had done it. Against impossible odds, they had done it. But the harmony felt quieter, dimmer. "Whisper," he asked softly into the silence. Her voice came faintly like the last light of a setting sun. Captain, we are fewer now, but our song endures, because you believed we were worth saving. Thank you. Her presence faded, not gone, but distant, like a melody carried on the wind. Jake bowed his head. No whisper, thank you. In the days that followed, the galaxy reeled. Word of the battle spread like wildfire. The invincible draconian hegemony, broken not by firepower but by cooperation. Forgotten species, long dismissed, rising in unity. Humans standing at the center, stubborn, defiant, unyielding. At the Galactic Council, delegates from minor worlds filled seats long left empty. The crystal singers sang their truth. The gentle builders offered their gifts. The Nexari, what remained of them, sat with dignity, their leader whisper of stars alive but weakened, her voice soft yet resolute. Ambassador Helen Davis, humanity's voice, addressed the council with quiet power. For 3 centuries you have believed strength means conquest, that the weak are worthless. But at Kepler 438c we saw a different truth. The strength to heal, the strength to build, the strength to protect, that is the strength that saved us all. The chamber fell silent. For once, the mighty listened to the small. At New Harmony Station, built above the Nexari homeworld, humans and aliens worked side by side. Engineers wove gentle builder alloys into human hulls. Pilots trained with light shepherd guidance. Children laughed as Nexari taught them to coax flowers of crystal from the ground. Jake stood on the observation deck, watching it all. He wore a new uniform, admiral now, though he barely felt the title. Lisa joined him, smiling faintly despite the shadows under her eyes. "You realize what you started, don't you?" she asked. Jake shook his head. "Not me, them, all of them. I just refused to walk away." Lisa's smile widened. That refusal changed the galaxy. Far below, Whisper of Stars walked slowly through her city. Nexari children ran to her side, their laughter soft as bells. She looked up at the sky, where ships of dozens of species now orbited in peace. Her people had given much, too much, but their song still lived, and now, for the first time, it was joined by countless others. She whispered into the wind, her voice carried by quantum fields into the hearts of all who listened. "We are not alone, we never were, and together we are strong." As the sun set over the crystal towers, Jake watched from orbit. The galaxy was different now, not safe, not simple, but changed. He thought of the Nexari who had given their last note, of Whisper's weary smile, of the crews who had stood with him against impossible odds. Sometimes strength wasn't in weapons. Sometimes it was in refusing to abandon those who could not fight. And sometimes, he realized, the most powerful weapon in the universe was not fire, nor steel, nor fear, but a song,